The following is a presentation of TFNN. Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044. Now, Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Namaste and welcome to Mindful Living, everybody, where we want to help you get healthy, feel good, and live life to the fullest every single day. I'm Allie Ford, and as always, I want to thank you for joining me, for giving me your support each week and tuning in and sending your comments via all the ways to contact me. You can go to my website, allieford.com, and connect with me via Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, which I'm relatively new to, but absolutely loving. Some awesome photos there, so I encourage you to go check it out. Or email me, which you can also connect with through my website as well. So today, I'll be discussing how to manage the inevitable changes of life with just a little bit more grace and ease, and what attitudes that we can personally cultivate to help release some of the suffering in our life that'll make it a little easier to let go of some of the things we tend to try to control. And we'll talk about some of the attitudes that we tend to cultivate which inhabit that ability, or our ability to go with the flow. So stay tuned for that. But first, I have some really exciting news to share with you, and I am so excited about this. I've just decided and just received an amazing invitation to team up with a dear friend of mine and colleague, amazing yoga teacher Amy Hill out of London, England, to guide a luxury yoga, meditation, and detox retreat for 7 days and six nights on, get this, the breathtakingly gorgeous island of Sicily, off the coast of Italy. The location is actually the Verdura Golf and Spa Resort. It's a spectacular Rockafort property, which offers all kinds of sporting activities, including tennis courts, an 18-hole and 9-hole golf course, a 60-meter infinity edge swimming pool, full gym, and running trails through lemon trees and olive groves. If that doesn't sound awesome enough, in addition to daily yoga, we'll practice twice a day, and sunrise meditation, which is, of course, optional if you tend to stay up a little too late on your health and wellness retreats. They have to be fun, too, right? Let's be honest. But you can also enjoy 4 thalassotherapy pools, healthy cuisine, and as I say, we'll be offering a detox during the retreat, and a variety of spa treatments. And the whole package will include a couple of spa treatments at the resort. So stay tuned. This is going to be a fabulous event that you do not want to miss. And I'll be posting more information as soon as it's available on my website, allieford.com. You'll also find information on my website about my chanting CD, which is a calming, relaxing chanting CD. They're Sanskrit chants. The title of the CD is called Gratitude, and it's chants for healing and harmony. So all of the chants, whether or not you're familiar with the Sanskrit language, are designed to invoke a peaceful, relaxing, good feeling in your spine, in your nervous system. And I have a lot of parents tell me they play this CD for their children and they love it. Sometimes they'll chant along, or if they're feeling stressed, especially while they're driving in traffic, they'll just pop it in and relax to the tunes. It makes a great gift for the holidays. You can also download that on virtually every online store. And, of course, my new children's book, which is entitled Garuda, The Eagle Who Soared with Ahimsa. This I just released last month, and the reception has been so warm and amazing, and I thank you to everyone out there who has ordered a copy, or in many cases several copies, to give as gifts, which, again, is it's the holiday season coming up, so it makes a great gift for any of the children in your life, whether it's your own children, your grandchildren, nieces, nephews, people you care for, your students, or if you're a yoga teacher, of course, your students. And it's super fun because the whole story in the book can be acted out in a yoga class, and the poses that are mentioned in the book are modeled in the back of the book by my own children. So it's a really sweet story. It offers the opportunity for caregivers to talk about some of the deeper meanings of life, including ahimsa, which is a Sanskrit word that means non-harming, or how to treat others with love, and preconceived notions, or how not to judge a book by its cover. The true meaning of friendship, which is a great one to talk about with children, and what brings true joy, the source of true joy, and where true joy is born in our hearts. So again, I thank you, all of you who have ordered a copy of the book. And again, you can go to my website for more information. Speaking of, I have just filmed the children's yoga class that goes along with the book, so that will soon be available on DVD as well. Now, back to this show, and I'm talking about mindful living every week and what it is all about. As you know, my current listeners, I'm an avid yoga, meditation, mindfulness practitioner, and health and wellness enthusiast. And I'm called to share any insight I've gained or am gaining through these practices, as well as invite specialists and experts in a variety of subjects, from health and nutrition, or diet and nutrition, to fitness, psychology, psychiatry, male and female health. We've talked about cancer prevention, holistic healing modalities, even natural beauty and philanthropy. So I'll invite experts or specialists in all of these fields that I feel have an important message to share that I personally can learn from. And I always think to myself, if I can learn something, surely it will have some benefit for someone else. And so this is all in an effort to aid you in living, as I say at the beginning of every single show, to the fullest every single day, to aid and support you in living the healthiest, most balanced, and most fulfilling life possible. That is my wish for you. And together, we can do it. We have to be health and wellness warriors and support each other on this journey. Now, I've had the privilege of speaking with some of the nation's leading experts in their fields, and it's been entirely inspiring. And if you've missed any of these conversations, I encourage you to go to my website, to go back to our archives and listen. You can find those archives, as I say, on my website or on my YouTube channel, which you can also find through my website, allieford.com. Now, today's subject is how to manage change with grace. And the inspiration for this conversation today is actually a couple things. One is that the yoga studio where I have been teaching and practicing, so teaching as a teacher, hosting my yoga teacher training programs, as well as practicing on a daily basis as a student for the last 6 years, is closing. For a number of reasons, the business has decided to close. So the doors will close at the end of this month. And it's an emotional experience. A lot of the yoga students who go there every day, it's a really strong, sweet community. The owner has been an amazing leader in our community, and it's been a place for healing. And lots of changes have happened in her life that are just preventing her from going on managing a business. And so she's made the decision to close. In addition to that, over the last week, I have received 2 emails from students who are going through some serious changes that are causing pain. One of them just experienced an injury in their body, in particular her knee, that has thrown her for a loop and really kind of got in the way of a lot of the things that she likes to do. And it's caused her to feel really down, feel almost feelings of depression, so an injury in her body. And the other was from a student who is suffering as a result of a relationship that has just ended. So all of these things have one thing in common, and that is change. The changes in our life are inevitable. And while we probably all very much realize this, suffering comes when we either try to resist change or resist accepting the change. Now, of course, some changes are easier to manage than others, but this I present to you is largely based on our perspective, how we choose to see things, or the value that we choose to place on things. And that perspective is based on our attachment to things or situations, again, on the value we place on things. So, for example, it might be really difficult to cause a tremendous amount of suffering for one person to lose their favorite material item, like a new pair of shoes or earrings, or maybe a purse, or have something that you just bought break or get damaged, like a new car. That might cause a tremendous amount of suffering. While at the same time, another person may experience the same amount of suffering, emotional pain, or intensity of emotions over, say, a lost job or a lost relationship. Now, while the amount of intensity or suffering we feel is largely based, as I say, on the value that we place on that thing or that situation, there are some common changes in life that in general are the most difficult for the average person to experience. So this was a study that showed the top 5 changes that cause the most stress or the most unrest in our lives. Those are, in no particular order, loss of a loved one, personal illness or injury, a change in relationship, and that is either beginning a relationship or ending a relationship, a change in your employment status, again, either beginning or ending a job, and lastly, relocation, so picking up and moving to a new location. So these 5 changes can cause a lot of pain and suffering. And if you remember the inspiration of the show today, 3 of these changes are covered in that inspiration: ending a relationship, personal injury, and then closing a business or change in employment. So the student who injured her knee also happens to be a fitness instructor, and not only has this caused pain in her physical body, it's making her feel ill, but it's affecting her job. So she's kind of suffering twofold from one experience. Now, when these changes happen, it can be really common to feel as though a rug's been pulled out from under our feet, or though we've been thrown for a loop. And this is the actual language that we use, right? We feel really ungrounded, or perhaps even a little bit lost or uncertain in life, or confused. So it's important that you have personal practices, or incorporate some personal practices that help you know who you are at the deepest level in your heart, and realize there is a part of you that is everlasting, that's infinite, that's unchanging peace, unaffected and undamaged by the external changes of life. And yoga will say it's that light inside. Who are you at the deepest level? This is a good question to ask yourself before your job, before your relationship, before the fact that you're a parent or that you're male or female. Who are you? It's just something to ponder. And I'll tell you, just a couple days ago, as I was thinking about what to talk about tonight, one of my favorite movies came on, and it's The Shawshank Redemption. If you have not seen this film, I've seen it 100 times, and every time I see it, a new message comes out to me. In fact, oh my gosh, I named my daughter, her middle name is Hope, because of this film. It is so prophetic and prolific, the message that come through. There's a man that's been incarcerated, wrongly incarcerated. He's innocent, but he tells one of his friends in prison that you could lose everything. You could lose everything in your life, but as long as you have hope, you have everything. This man who's been wrongly incarcerated goes through so much external physical pain, beating, rape in prison, just his life stolen from him. And yet, in talking to his friend, who's a character named Red, played by Morgan Freeman, he tells this man, there's a place inside of you that is always untouched. There's a place inside of you that no matter what happens outside of you, they can't get to. So these practices like yoga and meditation or journaling, just spending some quiet time with yourself, and I advise you to find a teacher if you haven't tried any of these practices that help you just return to that place of wholeness and who you are inside, can help you then start to identify with that place. And over time, it helps you with the changes that you experience in life. It helps you to be less thrown for a loop. And remember that you have some stability, you have some solidity in your heart, and you always have that place to return to. So eventually it just leads to a more equanimity in your life. So when I come back, I'm going to be talking about how learning to let go is going to be a key attitude to facilitate in order to manage change with a lot less struggle. So stay with me. I'll be right back.
In quiet markets, investors search for new trading opportunities. We'd like to introduce you to a new product that provides opportunities even in flat markets. Nadex, the North American Derivatives Exchange, is a new and innovative Chicago-based exchange registered with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, and unlike most other exchanges, Nadex allows you to trade directly through them with direct market access when using their trading platform. Nadex never charges a fee to use their platform, which even includes real-time charts and full customization capability. Nadex's unique short-term binary options allow traders and investors to capitalize on strategies even when the underlying markets are quiet. Nadex's innovation has allowed them to come up with a line of unique trading products that are unavailable anywhere else. See how it works at nadex.com. That's NADEX.com, or click on the Nadex banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Futures and options trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for all investors.
We're told to follow our passion and everything else will fall into place. I hope that's what each of you are doing each and every day. Hi, I'm Steve Rhodes, host of the Money Master Show at TFNN.com, and my passion for technical analysis is what led me to the most fundamental discovery in pattern recognition, the Rhodes Momentum Indicator, market scanner, and trading strategy, a set of tools that identify the momentum and power of the trend, the likes of which have never been seen before, for every market and every time frame. Yes, folks, the trend is your friend, unless you're on the other side. New to technical analysis? This is the place to start. And experienced traders, take advantage of the trend like never before. Experience the power of the Rhodes Momentum Indicator each day, available to subscribers of my newsletter service, Mastering Probability. I guarantee your satisfaction for the next 30 days unconditionally, so there's no risk to you other than being on the wrong side of the trend. Mastering Probability, available on the homepage of TFNN.com. And folks, live with passion.
No matter where you listen to TFNN programming, we want you to know you can always access your favorite shows on demand through TFNN.com. TFNN airs live programming every market day from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can view each program by accessing Tiger TV through our homepage. We even have an easy link for all mobile devices, including iPhones and iPads, located at the top right-hand corner of the TFNN homepage. You can use your smartphone to view Tiger TV, but if you don't have a mobile connection that can keep up with streaming live video, then you can simply visit TFNN.mobi in the browser of your smartphone for live streaming audio of all of our programs. The mission of TFNN is to educate our audience directly and interactively through our interactive website and radio call and talk shows. TFNN is able to teach all levels of investors the technical skills needed to trade in today's marketplace. In order to get the best information possible, TFNN has assembled the most respected financial minds in the country to provide the most current news and comprehensive advice available. TFNN.com. Educating investors. Yesterday's gone. Tomorrow's not here. What are you doing right now? Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Welcome back to Mindful Living, everybody. Today we're talking about sailing through change with a little bit more grace. Even a little bit more grace will be helpful for us to overcome some of the suffering and pain that comes with the inevitable changes in life. And one of the basic messages that yoga and meditation teach is this idea of non-attachment. In fact, the Buddhists say that we are extremely sticky. We have a very sticky mind. And it's based on our perspective, the value that we tend to put on things or situations or circumstances can make us really want to hold on to things and attach to things, which can be difficult. It can cause a lot of pain when things change. This idea of attaching to something makes us almost want to freeze it in time and keep it exactly as it is. I mean, even as a mother, I think about this with my two beautiful children who have grown so quickly over the last almost 10 years, and watching them grow, you know. Sure, there are times when when I tell them, I tease with them, stop growing. You know, I wanted them to stay a tiny baby, or I want them to stay my little children. But there will be a day when they will graduate school, God willing, you never know what tomorrow may bring, and live a full life. You know, they'll move out of my house, even though, again, I want to chain them to the floor sometimes. But this idea of attachment is preventing us from allowing experiences to come and go in our life, to help us go with the flow. So that's what we're talking about today, and ultimately learning the art of letting go. And we're going to talk about that. Sometimes people ask, why do I want to let go? If I really love something, why do I have to let it go? Well, we've got some tips for that later in the show. Now, I also want to say that sometimes this idea of letting go, of surrendering, that word surrender, it's a big one in the East. Here in the West, we think of letting go or surrendering sometimes as a sign of weakness, when in actuality, it can be a great sign of strength. It can be really freeing just to, if you find yourself holding on to negativity or wishing others poorly, especially if you've gone through a hard experience with another person, or thinking badly about a situation, or how you wish it would have turned out different. It can be just so freeing. Just say, hey, it is what it is. This is what happened. It's in the past. I can't change what happened in the past. And learn to let it go, and to wish whatever that situation was, or that person was, or who that person is, wish them well. Because harboring negative energy or feelings or wishing others ill well is not serving us. That is negative energy that if you pay attention to, you'll feel in your heart. It's toxic and can literally cause disease. So practices like yoga, meditation, daily, weekly, or bi-monthly, which is what I recommend, the minimum of bi-monthly journaling, where you just spend a little time with yourself. And in fact, today's full moon, so I recommend every new and full moon, you journal. And just a very positive way, write down the things that you want to manifest in your life. So a lot of times we journal, and we'll focus on everything that's happened in the past and how negative it is. And remember that what Tom says in the show before mine, what you think about, you bring about. And what you focus on grows. So write down the things that you want to manifest in your life in a very positive way. And reflect on that at least a couple times a month. You'll be amazed at how your priorities shift and change, and how the path before you just becomes clear and opens up. So that when inevitable change comes your way, you still have that clear path to follow. Or even when the path itself becomes murky, because sometimes that happens, you still know the important goals that you want to find a way to achieve in your life. Otherwise, it can be really easy to throw in the towel, particularly if you're starting a new endeavor and challenges or changes arise, and they will. That's a fact of life. It can be very easy just to give up if you're not sure of what your goals are, or whatever it was that you said you wanted in your life. So write those down, and then when the changes come, just know, aha, we talked about this. Change is going to come. Change is going to come, just like that song says. And but I'm going to get through it. I'm going to experience it, I'm going to let it go, and I'm going to get back on task. And if and when you find yourself stuck, or stuck in a place that's negative, or facing a challenge, then it's a great opportunity, which is how I like to try and see challenges or negative experiences as they arise. And that is, so if you see change, or if you're experiencing adversity or difficulty, try and view it as an opportunity. An opportunity to become self-reflective and to grow. Pause, just to notice how you're feeling, and consider the way that you're looking at things. Are you looking at things negatively? Are you holding on to something that's happened in the past? Now, a key note here is do this practice with a lot of compassion, acceptance, patience, and love for yourself, so that when you start to consider why you're feeling down or stuck or depressed or upset in some way, that you do it in an accepting way as opposed to a judgmental way. Because making yourself feel even worse, or berating yourself, or beating yourself up for being down, stuck, upset, or depressed is only going to make you feel more stuck. That's not going to get you unstuck, all right? So if you're noticing you're feeling down, or you're having an adverse emotion, something that's weighting you down, acknowledge it. Say, I'm feeling sad right now. I'm feeling stressed right now. And when you acknowledge it, you allow that energy to flow through you so that it becomes unstuck, and so that it can move on, and you can move on, and return to health and wellness. So as you reflect, ask yourself, what is in the past that I'm holding on to? It's a really good question. Is this thing I'm holding on to, this event, these thoughts in my head, is it something that's happened in the past? And can I change it? That's the next key question to ask yourself. Can I change it? And, I've told this story before on Mindful Living. This can be if you're trading in the stock market and you have an off day or a down day and you say, oh, man, I should have sold that, stock, or I shouldn't have sold that stock. You can't change it. All you can do is, because when you do that, you start to feel down and berate yourself and maybe even consider yourself as, it was a stupid decision. I shouldn't have made that decision. You can't undo what you did, right? To even some of the simplest decisions. I've seen this in professional sports games when, in the game that I watched in particular, a soccer player kicked a ball and it went completely the wrong direction, and he stood there for a second and threw a little tantrum, and meanwhile his teammate gets the ball back, kicks it back to him. He had an opportunity to, keep the ball going and change the direction of the game, but because he was stuck on a missed kick, stuck in the past, when the ball came back to him, his opponent got it, ran down and scored. So, if the answer is yes, I can control the situation, all right? If I can go back and change it, then immediately you'll feel better. Why worry? Because it will become clear the steps that you need to take to go back and make it the way that you want. If, however, the answer is no, I can't control it, I can't change the outcome of this situation, then you have a choice to make, and that is to let it go. Again, it doesn't mean that you won't feel emotions. So this is a really important concept we practice or try to practice, a life lesson in yoga, and it's called non-attachment, vairagya in Sanskrit. Sounds like Viagra, but it's not Viagra. Viagra is the exact opposite of non-attachment, okay? So vairagya, or non-attachment as we say in Sanskrit, it's one of the foundational practices of life because ultimately everything is changing. And when you realize that and you're able to say it's within or it's without of my control or out of my control, then it helps to ease the worry a little bit. And the more we try to keep things exactly the same, the more rigid we live our lives, whether it's trying to control our children or our partners, or the process of aging, which a lot of us do, right? Trying to freeze our bodies into a certain state, then the more we suffer, the more suffering we experience, because in some way we are resisting that change. It's important to know that change is inevitable. And to be clear, the idea of non-attachment or knowing that things will change does not mean complacency or disinterest in some way. You will feel emotions, so it's important that you do not deny emotions, but especially if it's a difficult change, right? If it's the loss of a loved one, I mean, that's a really difficult change. It's a difficult situation, or illness in your body. That if you're feeling sad, then allow yourself to feel it. One of the things we do is deny the emotions. We'll try and stuff them down or change the way that we're feeling in some way. And every time you go against what is natural inside of you, then it's creating another blockage, another energetic blockage, another wall, if you will, that you're going to have to bust through eventually. So allow that emotion to rise. But with that open-mindedness, that clear perspective that change is inevitable, that change was coming, and for some reason there is an opportunity in this change for you to learn and grow as a person, as a being. And then that energy can move through you. Right? So you're not attaching then to the situation. And so eventually become a little less stuck or perhaps unstuck and can move past that change. So one of the key texts of yoga, it's the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, says that the root cause of all suffering is what's known as avidya, or ignorance. And the definition of ignorance in the Yoga Sutras is regarding that which is impermanent as permanent, or having the erroneous perception that those things which are inevitably changing will remain unchanged. And this is, again, known as ignorance or avidya. Right? Because everything changes. Material items, the earth around us, our bodies, our relationships. Even if a relationship doesn't end, it can be very difficult to get through when things within your relationship change. All right, so we come back, we're going to keep talking about this idea of non-attachment. Stay with me.
You take a hands-on approach to managing your investment strategy. You're always looking for the next trading opportunity to magnify your perspective. Direction Shares connects sophisticated traders with a powerful array of ETFs from a wide range of asset classes. The markets may go up and down, and you want tools for both sides of the trade. Discover how we can help at DirectionShares.com today. An investor should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the Direction Shares carefully before investing. The prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction Shares. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus, please contact Direction Shares at 800-851-0511. The prospectus or summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors employing dynamic strategies. Investors in the fund should understand the consequences of seeking daily investment results, understand the risk of shorting, and intend to actively monitor and manage their investments. Distributor Foresight Fund Services, LLC.
Who says you can't take it with you? TFNN says you can. With your mobile device and TFNN's live radio streams, TFNN has put it all in the palm of your hands. No special apps to download. No subscription fees for live radio or Tiger TV streams. We say you can.
Now let's go over to the dollar, because the dollar is going to be the generator. It is the generator of basically higher dollar, lower market. And what the dollar has done, and this whole uptrend, folks, has just gone sideways. The way it works, folks, is this.
We say you can. The Tiger Financial News Network. Smart investors and professional traders know you can. TFNN.com. Educating investors. Life is a mystery to be lived, not a problem to be solved. Mindful Living with Allie Ford and Tom O'Brien.
Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling, yeah. I get a feeling that I never had before. No, I get a good feeling, yeah.
Welcome back to Mindful Living, everybody. And that's right, as our intro says, when you hear the music, life is a mystery to be lived. And, you know, sometimes we want all the answers. But one of my favorite yoga teachers said to me that, you know, if you live long enough, you finally realize, and yoga can help with this as well, and meditation can help with this as well, that there's no possible way to know it all. To ultimately be okay with the unknown. All right, so it's trying to let go a little bit of control can bring so much more peace to our lives and even to our demeanor. If you notice anybody who we say they're a control freak and they tend to live their lives really amped up and, you know, complete, we call them type A, trying to control everything. And sure, you know, this can be helpful in some instances. Maybe they're very organized. Maybe they get their goals met on time, particularly in a corporate environment or work environment. And they stick to their word. They deliver on time. All of those are very strong traits. It's just that when we try so hard to, and by the way, those things are in general in our control. Sometimes they're not, right? We try to get projects delivered on time and they don't happen. If you cannot learn to let go of what happened, then it brings just a lot more turmoil, a lot more stress, and ultimately can lead to disease in our life. So what's not changing? This is a really good question to ask. One of the first places we start in yoga is with our physical body. People come to the yoga practice, step onto their yoga mat, and start to explore usually a practice they've never done if they're new to yoga. You know, moving in new ways, and one of the first things they do is define themselves, I should say, because I did this as well when I first started yoga, as an unchanging being. My hamstrings are really tight, yeah, or my back is really tight, or I have bad knees, or I have a bad back. These are all things I hear. I'm inflexible. And when we define ourselves as a certain way, if you've had a back injury and you start to define yourself as having a bad back, then you become mentally and sometimes subconsciously attached to that situation. You may know people in your life who've had back injury, and from that day forward just define themselves as having a bad back. But if you can instead say, this is what's there now. For example, my hamstrings feel tight today, or my back feels sensitive today, or at this moment, or my knees feel sensitive. You know, there's pain there today, and learn to listen to that. But instead, stating it that way and visualizing it mentally as an impermanent situation gives you the energetic space to allow change to happen. I myself injured my back very painfully lifting my son, herniated a disc and bulged two above it. And, you know, I definitely felt sorry for myself. I was on the couch crying for some time. It was excruciating. But when the fog lifted a little bit, coming through that pain, you know, for me, it was an opportunity to understand what back pain felt like, because my mother had, and my grandmother, and my uncle, so many people, so many family members had back pain their entire life, and I never really understood how painful it was until that experience. So I'm grateful that I was able to feel that, so that I could become more compassionate toward not only my family members who've been living their life in pain, but to yoga students who come to my classes and say, I have back injury. I understand now. I understand. So it was a great opportunity. But also through yoga practice and learning that our body is constantly changing. I mean, they say that the cells are regenerating so much that every 7 years we have a completely new physical body. Understanding that the body is always changing, I tried the best that I could to give myself that space for change, to practice non-attachment to the body. And, you know, through yoga practice, my back is about 98-99% back to what it was before the injury. Sure, pain still comes now and then, but I know it's not constant and that it can change. And I really think that that helps you move through illness or injury. So if you're experiencing illness or injury, then to know that the body's changing and it too shall pass, or at least adopt that mentality, will give you greater chance to let it go and get through it, more internal strength. Now, ultimately, this attachment to the body is very profound, because ultimately our body leaves us. The body dies. That's kind of heavy, right? But inevitably, we're all headed toward that end. So that's why it's important to say what is. Some people are in denial. Some people are in denial. You know, we want to fill ourselves with fillers and do everything we can to keep our skin young, and we can, you know. I'm not knocking that. I think it's good to stay healthy and fit, but mentally keep yourself young as best you can, and laugh. My grandmother always said, the longer you laugh, the longer you live. But that ultimately, if you attach too much to the physical body, when it changes, then suffering will be there, all right? So try and adopt that. If you look at some of the other changes that we talked about at the beginning of the show that cause unrest in our lives, change in job. Now, a lot of times, change in employment ending or beginning can be because we are defining ourselves in a very specific role, that I am this type of professional, and this is the experience I have, and this is the job that I have to get, this is the job I had, and this is the role that I want to play. We're very attached to the role that we're playing in life. It's important that we keep an open mind. Again, see it as an opportunity for change. Trust that things happen for a reason. If you lose your job, yes, it can be a very difficult situation, because most of us are dependent upon our income to live, to pay our bills, which can be another opportunity for change. Some of us are outliving our means. So again, it's not that change is going to be easy, right? It provides an opportunity to look at ourselves with sort of a microscope. And maybe we even ourselves need to change. Maybe those changes are happening because we're just too stuck in a certain place. So if a change in employment comes, as best you can, try to look at the opportunity that change is bringing you, all right, rather than get stuck on the fact that it ended. Again, is it in your control? Is it not in your control? Now, when it comes to relationships, we were talking about this when the break came up, a couple of things happen in relationships. First of all, if you realize that we as individuals are changing, then that can aid the peace that you maintain in your existing relationship. It's okay if your partner's personality or opinions change. Maybe you used to like the same restaurant, maybe you don't today. Does that make them a bad person? No. Is that something to argue over? No. Honor them for their changes. Honor them for what it is that they love and like. If you're now attaching to a relationship that ends, now this can be a romantic relationship or a friendship, this can be a very difficult situation. Let's face it, if a person chooses not to be in a relationship and you try to control the way that they're feeling, it's only going to bring you more pain. You can feel sad that they made that decision to move on and let the emotions move through you. But at some point, you just have to wish them well and allow them to move on. They say sometimes if you love them enough, you have to be able to set them free. And I mentioned the email at the beginning of the show that I received from my student. She's having this situation with a friend of hers in whom she invested years of love and fun. So this is one of her best friends that they spent years together. They told each other their deepest secrets. They experienced their biggest changes together and grew as young women together. And her friend has just gotten busy. They're in college. Her friend has taken on new courses, has changed her focus, so they're in different classes. She's joined some social clubs that are different than what they used to do together, and so she has new interests. And they're just growing apart. So my student who wrote me was feeling very upset because she was calling her friend all the time and her friend wasn't available. She was asking her to dinner, but her friend could never go. And she was taking this as a personal attack, as though her friend no longer cared for her, as though her friend almost was thinking negatively toward her. But I think, in talking this through and spending a little quiet time and just thinking about what might be the motivation, instead of just assuming it's negative motivation for the divide in the relationship, changing those negative thought patterns into positive and saying, my friend, she's growing. He or she is growing. Their interests are changing. They're pursuing their dreams. And because I love this person, I want them to be successful. I want them to pursue their dreams, and I support them in everything that they do. Just that little change of perspective and how she was viewing the situation helped her experience an internal peace and calm and practice a little less attachment to that relationship. Another thing we practice in yoga, and I think it's a beautiful lesson for life, is this idea of karma. Karma yoga teaches that we give with absolutely no expectation of anything in return. And as a parent, this can be something that we realize right away, that our children need us to care for them, and they're completely dependent upon us. So we have to give to those children with an expectation of absolutely nothing back in return. Ultimately, we should be able to give in this manner toward everyone in our life. Now, that's not to say that you stay in toxic relationships, whether it's romantic or just a friend. If someone is treating you poorly, speaking down to you, making you feel less worthy, or stealing your internal fire, or not supporting you in your goals, then you too have to make the decision or the choice to move on, to let go. This is where we can become, attached or involved in very dysfunctional relationships and codependent. And this is no way to live either. So when it comes to relationships, let it be based on love and compassion and giving with expectation of nothing in return. And if someone chooses to leave, wish them well. Wish them well. And last thing I'll say about this, not to be on a soapbox, but divorce is quite rampant in our society. And at the end of the day, we try to keep it together for our society and for our children and for our families. But if it's a toxic situation, in the end, it might be better for people to choose to love each other and be cordial and be friends, especially if there are children involved, and part ways and wish each other well, because that's energy that the children pick up on, that they feel. So if you've experienced a divorce and you're having difficulty wishing your ex-partner well, I encourage you to write down some things that you used to love about that person and think very, very positively. Send love their way, and that the healing that you will experience from that practice will be incredible. So ultimately, we have to realize that everything changes, right? Material items, this is something we talked about. This can be a little bit less profound, but when I was on my way to my bachelorette party from Florida back to California, I packed a small bag with all my favorite things. My best shoes, my best tops, my best jewelry. I was going big for my last single weekend. And I got rerouted. My airplane was rerouted 3 times. Went through 3 different airports. And the bag was lost. When I arrived in California with nothing but my purse, with no change of clothes, no makeup, no even contacts, no eyeglasses. I had the pair of contacts in my eyes. That was it. I was definitely a little attached to that stuff. I was upset. I got upset. Luckily, however, when my girlfriends picked me up, they all pitched in, and I got to wear all of their things for the weekend. So it was like I'd gone shopping for free. So it changed my perspective. And by the way, that bag never showed up again. So I had to let it go. I had to let it go. So material things can be a big source of attachment. And really, at the end of the day, it's important to remember we can't take those things with us. And if attachment to material things are causing you pain and suffering, it's time to reevaluate where you're placing value, all right? Focus on the things that are most important in your life. So the earth is changing around us. Our bodies are changing. Illness, let it go. Injury, let it go. Relationships change, whether you stay in them or have to leave them. Ultimately, our lives are changing. And the question to ask yourself is, what is not changing? Through self-reflective practices like yoga, meditation, mindfulness, the answers will be revealed to you. And it is that there is that light inside of you in your heart that is ultimately, infinitely peace, love, joy, perfection. It's unchanging. And regardless of how difficult life gets, you can remain grounded in this knowledge and thus experience life with more equanimity. Now, again, we have to practice non-attachment even to that expectation. This is something yoga students tell me all the time. You know, I've been practicing for a year. When is my life going to get better? When is my body going to get more flexible? When am I going to see results? If you do anything in life with that attitude, now you're attached to the future. So you're no longer in the present. You're not in the past. You're attached to the future. When's it going to happen? You know, what can I expect? That is missing out on what's happening right here, right now, not being present. And this can cause a lot of unrest. So I invite you to try that, you know, anytime you notice yourself attaching to or expecting something to happen right here, right now, I invite you to then cultivate patience. Take a deep breath, pause for a moment. Whether you're learning to play golf or tennis or sing or guitar. I mean, these are things that ultimately, if you want to be proficient in, you need to do every day. And that is a great attitude to bring toward anything. So notice if now you're getting stuck in the past, expecting a different outcome before you've really done the work to get there. There is a great yoga sutra, one of my favorites, another tip from the ancient text of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali that says that your practice or your skills, whatever you're working on, will become firmly grounded when you adopt the right attitudes toward that skill or toward your practice. And that is to always be at it. So consistently, without interruption. So you can't just practice your guitar on Monday when your guitar teacher comes and then practice again the next Monday and the next Monday and expect that you're going to progress. Right? You have to be at it every day without interruption and with the right attitude. And that is with patience, because impatience breeds errors, and it just makes you give up more quickly. It sets you up for failure. All right, so cultivate those attitudes regardless of what it is that you are trying to cultivate. So I want to share with you a quote from one of my favorite books that a yoga student actually gave me, one of my yoga friends from Greenville, and it's the Tao Te Ching. And ironically, I opened this book and opened right to this page, which just trusting the universe, trusting that there's a higher power is pretty amazing. But the book says, if you realize that all things change, there's nothing you'll try to hold on to. If you aren't afraid of dying, there's nothing you can't achieve. Trying to control the future is like trying to take the master carpenter's place. So trying to control the future is like trying to take the master carpenter's place. And when you handle the master carpenter's tools, chances are you cut yourself. So again, realizing that everything does change, and that the more you can practice non-attachment or vairagya, then the less cutting, or in other words, suffering, you will experience. So I hope that something I've said today has resonated with you. If you're going through a change right now that's difficult, feel free to email me. Let's talk about it. I'm at Allie@AllieFord.com, or you can text, or you can hit me through Facebook or Twitter. Connect with me, because that's how we all heal together. To remember that, going back to those 5 changes that are most difficult for people to manage, we're all the same ultimately. As much as we try to separate ourselves or put ourselves in a little box, particularly when we're suffering or feeling down, we feel so alone. But to remember that you're never suffering alone, that we all experience the same challenges in life at some time, and the same emotions, regardless of what those changes are. So connect, talk with someone. I would love for you to reach out to me and let me know what's happening in your life. Thank you again for joining me today, and I hope that you'll come back and join me next week for more mindful living. Send me your ideas. If you want to hear a certain topic on the show, I'd love to hear from you. Send me your ideas or requests, and I'll find an expert in that field, bring them on, and we'll talk and answer your questions. Until I see you next time, next Wednesday, between 5 and 6 Eastern, I hope that you'll share the show. If something I've said has resonated with you, share the link with your loved ones and with your friends. And until I see you next week, I'm going to wish you peace, wellness, health, joy, all the love and light that you could possibly find in your heart, and the end of suffering, the end of suffering. Thanks so much for joining me. See you next time. Namaste.